First contact. Captain Zarak stood on the bridge of the Galactic Confederation starship Horizon, her four eyes scanning the vast emptiness of space before her. Her iridescent scales shimmered under the soft blue light of the ship's interior, a testament to her species' evolution in the methane seas of Proxima Centauri. As one of the youngest captains in the Confederation's history, Zarak felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Quite literally, the neural interface at the base of her skull tingled with the constant stream of ship's data. Captain, her first officer, Krila, chirped from her station. "We're picking up an anomalous signal from Sector 7 Gamma." Zarak's attention snapped to the holographic display materializing before her. Specifics, Krila. "It appears to be a distress signal, Captain, but it's unlike anything in our database. The encryption is primitive, yet remarkably robust." Curiosity piqued, Zarak ordered, "Set a course for the signal's origin. Maximum warp." The horizon surged forward, stars blurring into streaks of light as it tore through the fabric of space-time. Hours later, they dropped out of warp near an uncharted solar system. A single habitable planet orbited a yellow dwarf star, its blue and green surface marred by angry red scars visible even from space. "Life signs?" Zarak inquired, leaning forward in her command chair. The science officer, Talon, a being of pure energy contained within a humanoid exosuit, responded, "Affirmative, Captain. But strange. The biosignatures are erratic, clustered in small pockets across the planet's surface. And there's something else. Artificial structures, extensively damaged." Zarak's mandibles clicked in thought. A post-apocalyptic scenario, or ongoing conflict. She stood, her tall, willowy frame stretching to its full 3-meter height. "Prepare a landing party. We'll investigate personally." As the shuttle descended through the planet's atmosphere, Zarak couldn't shake an uneasy feeling. The Galactic Confederation had encountered countless civilizations, but something about this felt different. The moment they breached the cloud cover, alarms blared throughout the shuttle. "Evasive maneuvers," Zarak shouted as a barrage of projectiles streaked towards them. The pilot, his tentacles working furiously over the controls, managed to dodge most of the incoming fire, but one projectile clipped their wing, sending them into a spiraling descent. "Brace for impact," Zarak commanded, her exoskeleton hardening instinctively. The shuttle plowed into the ground, skidding to a halt in a field of strange golden plants. As the dust settled, Zarak assessed her team. Miraculously, no one was seriously hurt. "Those weren't energy weapons," Talon observed, his exosuit's sensors whirring. "Kinetic projectiles. Primitive, but ingenious in their simplicity." Zarak nodded, her respect for their unseen adversaries growing. "Stay alert. Whoever they are, they're clearly not interested in visitors." The team cautiously exited the shuttle, weapons at the ready. The air was breathable, albeit with a higher oxygen content than most spacefaring races preferred. The golden plants swayed in a gentle breeze, emitting a soft chiming sound that was almost melodic. "Captain," Krila whispered, pointing to a nearby hillock. "Movement." Zarak focused her 4 eyes, each pair capable of seeing a different spectrum of light. There, partially concealed by the strange vegetation, was a bipedal figure. It was smaller than Zarak, with a peculiar outer covering that seemed to shift and blend with its surroundings. "Hold your fire," Zarak ordered her team. Then, raising her voice, she called out in the universal language of the Confederation, "We come in peace. We received your distress signal and are here to help." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the figure emerged from its hiding spot. Zarak's eyes widened in disbelief. The being before her was unlike any she had encountered in her centuries of space exploration. It stood on 2 legs, with 2 arms ending in 5-digited appendages. Its skin was a pale pinkish brown, and atop its head was a mass of dark filaments. But it was the eyes that captivated Zarak. 2 eyes, set close together, burning with an intelligence and determination that seemed to pierce right through her. The being spoke, its voice carrying a mixture of wariness and hope. "I am Dr. Emily Chen, last surviving member of the Terran Colonial Scientific Expedition." "Who? What are you?" Zerak felt a shiver run down her spine. In all her years, she had only heard whispered legends of this species. A race so volatile, so unpredictable, that they had been quarantined by the ancient progenitors of the Galactic Confederation eons ago. She was standing face to face with a human. "I am Captain Zerak of the Galactic Confederation Starship Horizon," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're here to help. But I must ask, how did your kind come to be here?" The human race was thought to be confined to their home system. Dr. Chen's expression shifted, a complex play of emotions that Zerak found difficult to interpret. "It's a long story, Captain. One that began with hope and ended in tragedy. But right now, we have more pressing concerns." She gestured to the sky, where dark, roiling clouds were gathering on the horizon. "That storm isn't natural, and it's not the first. If we don't find a way off this planet soon, there won't be anyone left to save." Zerak nodded, her training kicking in despite the shock of the situation. "We'll need to repair our shuttle. In the meantime, I suggest we find shelter and you tell us everything." As they made their way towards a nearby structure, partially buried in the golden vegetation, Zerak couldn't help but feel a mix of fascination and trepidation. She had come seeking to offer aid to a primitive civilization. Instead, she found herself face to face with a legend, a human, and a mystery that threatened to shake the very foundations of the Galactic Confederation. Little did she know, this encounter would not only change her life, but potentially alter the course of galactic history itself. The revelation. The structure that Dr. Chen led them to was a marvel of improvised engineering. What had once been a standard prefabricated colonial habitat had been reinforced and expanded with a patchwork of scavenged materials. Sheets of a strange, iridescent metal, clearly not of Earth origin, were seamlessly integrated with more conventional alloys. As Zerak ducked through the low entrance, her exoskeleton adjusting to the confined space, she couldn't help but admire the ingenuity on display. The interior was a cluttered but efficient blend of human technology and repurposed alien artifacts. "Impressive," Talon remarked, his energy form flickering with interest as he scanned the room. "You've adapted xenotech to work with your own systems. The power integration alone is remarkable." Dr. Chen smiled wryly, the expression adding creases to her weathered face. "Necessity is the mother of invention, as we humans say. Please sit. I imagine you have questions." As the team settled into chairs clearly not designed for their varied physiologies, Zerak leaned forward, her 4 eyes focused intently on the human before her. "Indeed we do, Dr. Chen. Perhaps you could start by explaining how humans came to be on this planet, so far from your home system." Emily took a deep breath, her gaze becoming distant. "It began nearly 2 centuries ago, by our reckoning. Earth had become overcrowded, resource depleted. We needed to expand, to find new homes among the stars. This planet, we called it Novaterra, was to be our fresh start." She gestured to a faded holographic display on one wall, showing the planet as it must have appeared when they arrived. Pristine, full of promise. "We were a collection of scientists, engineers, and dreamers. Our mission was to establish a self-sustaining colony, a blueprint for future human expansion." Creela chittered softly, a sound of disbelief. "But how did you get here? The distances involved." "Cryosleep," Emily replied. "Decades spent in frozen slumber as our ships crawled across the void. We thought we were prepared for anything. We were wrong." The hologram shifted, showing a thriving settlement. But as Emily continued her tale, the image began to change, structures crumbling, the landscape scaring. "At first, everything went according to plan. We built our city, started farms, even began to study the native flora and fauna. But then, the storms came." The hologram now showed massive, swirling vortexes of energy descending from the sky, tearing apart everything in their path. We didn't understand at first. We thought they were just extreme weather patterns. But they were too regular, too purposeful. Emily's voice hardened. It took us too long to realize the truth. This planet, it's alive. And it was rejecting us like antibodies attacking an infection. Zarak's mandibles clicked in surprise. A sentient planet. But that's impossible. Emily interrupted, a hint of bitterness in her voice. We thought so too. But the evidence became undeniable. The planet's core is a vast, crystalline intelligence, and it saw us as invaders. Talon's energy form pulsed with excitement. Fascinating. A silicon-based consciousness on a planetary scale. The scientific implications are staggering. Emily nodded grimly. Staggering and terrifying. We tried to communicate, to make peace, but it was like ants trying to negotiate with a human whose house they'd invaded. The storms intensified. Our numbers dwindled. She stood, pacing the room as she continued her story. That's when we discovered the ruins. Ancient structures, built by a race long gone. They had left behind technology beyond our comprehension, including the distress beacon you picked up. Zarak's mind raced, connecting the dots. The iridescent metal, the integrated power systems. Yes, Emily confirmed. We adapted what we could, used it to fortify our remaining shelters, to fight back against the storms. But it's a losing battle. Our population is down to less than 1,000, scattered in bunkers across the planet. And now, she pointed to the hologram, which showed a massive planet-engulfing storm system approaching. The worst storm we've ever seen is coming. If we don't evacuate soon, humanity's grand experiment ends here. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. Zarak felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. The human race, thought safely contained, had not only escaped their quarantine but now faced extinction on a hostile world. Kreela was the first to break the silence. Captain, Galactic Confederation protocols are clear. We're not authorized to interfere with quarantined species, let alone facilitate their spread to new worlds. Zarak nodded slowly, her ethical subroutines clashing with her sense of moral duty. You're right, of course, but we also can't stand by and watch an intelligent species be wiped out. Emily's eyes flashed with a mix of hope and determination. Captain, I understand your hesitation. But surely, after all this time, after all we've endured and achieved, humanity has proven itself worthy of a second chance. Before Zarak could respond, alarms blared throughout the structure. Emily rushed to a console, her face paling as she read the display. The storm, it's accelerating. We have less time than we thought. She turned to Zarak, her voice urgent. Whatever you decide, Captain, you need to decide fast. Because in less than 48 hours, this planet becomes a death trap for all of us. Zarak felt the weight of centuries of Galactic Confederation law pressing against her carapace. But as she looked into Emily's eyes, she saw something that transcended protocol. The indomitable will to survive, to push beyond limits, to defy the impossible. It was terrifying. It was awe-inspiring. It was human. Dr. Chen, Zarak said, her voice firm with newfound resolve, tell us everything you know about this planet's defenses. If we're going to attempt an evacuation, we'll need every advantage we can get. As Emily began to outline their options, Zarak couldn't shake the feeling that she was setting in motion events that would reshape the galaxy. For better or worse, humanity was about to re-enter the cosmic stage. And the universe would never be the same. Race against time. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. Captain Zarak had made her decision. Protocol be damned, she wouldn't leave these humans to die. But evacuating nearly 1,000 people from a hostile planet in less than 2 days seemed an impossible task. We'll need to coordinate with the other bunkers, Emily explained, her fingers flying over a makeshift console. The device was a Frankenstein's monster of human and alien tech, held together with what looked like chewing gum and sheer force of will. Most of our long-range communications are down, but we've developed a network of low-flying drones to relay messages. Zarak nodded, impressed despite herself. Krila, contact the Horizon. Have them begin emergency evacuation preparations. Tilan, I need you to analyze that storm. Find us a way through it. As her crew sprang into action, Zarak turned back to Emily. Dr. Chen, you mentioned the planet's defenses. What exactly are we up against? Emily's face grew grim. Besides the storms, the planet itself seems to generate electromagnetic pulses that fry our more advanced tech. That's why we've had to improvise. She gestured to the jury-rigged equipment around them. And then there are the Guardians. Guardians? Zarak's mandibles clicked in concern. As if on cue, a low rumble shook the bunker. Emily rushed to a view screen, her expression a mix of fear and resignation. Speak of the devil. You're about to see firsthand. The screen flickered to life, showing the golden fields outside. At first, Zarak saw nothing unusual. Then the ground began to move. Giant, crystalline structures erupted from the earth, forming humanoid shapes easily 3 times the size of Zarak. They glowed with an inner light, pulsing in complex patterns that made Zarak's head swim. By the void, Krila whispered, all 4 of her eyes wide with awe and terror. They're like antibodies, Emily explained, her voice tight. Manifestations of the planet's will, designed to eliminate what it perceives as a threat. Us. Zarak watched as one of the crystalline giants brought its fist down on a nearby human structure, shattering it like it was made of paper. How do you fight these things? A ghost of a smile flickered across Emily's face. With good old human ingenuity, she flipped a switch, and a high-pitched whine filled the air. The crystal giants shuddered, their movements becoming erratic before they crumbled back into the earth. Sonic disruptors, Emily explained. Took us years to figure out the right frequency. It doesn't stop them for long, but it gives us a fighting chance. Zarak felt a newfound respect for these humans growing within her. To not only survive, but to fight back against such overwhelming odds. It was remarkable. Captain. Tilan's voice crackled over the comm. I've analyzed the storm patterns. There's a narrow window where we might be able to punch through, but we'll need to boost our shields significantly. Emily's eyes lit up. The alien ruins. There's technology there that might help. We've never been able to fully understand it. But with your expertise... Zarak made a quick decision. Dr. Chen, gather your best engineers. Krila, you're with me. We're going ruin diving. The journey to the ruins was harrowing. They traveled in a repurposed mining vehicle, its thick treads crushing the golden vegetation beneath. Twice they had to activate Emily's sonic disruptors to disperse forming guardians. When they finally reached the ruins, Zarak felt her breath catch. The structures before them defied easy description. Twisting spires of that same iridescent metal, etched with symbols that seemed to shift and change as she looked at them. Incredible, Krila murmured, running a sensor over the nearest pillar. This metal, it's not just a building material, it's a computer. The whole structure is one massive data storage and processing system. Emily nodded. We thought as much, but we could never access more than a fraction of it. It's like trying to read a book written in 5 dimensions. As they delved deeper into the ruins, Zarak felt a growing sense of unease. The architecture was like nothing in the Confederation database, yet something about it tugged at the edges of her memory. They reached a central chamber, dominated by a pulsing crystalline core. Emily approached a nearby console, her movements sure despite the alien design. This is where we've had the most success. We think it's some kind of power regulation system. Krila joined her, chittering excitedly as she interfaced with the alien tech. Fascinating. The energy output is orders of magnitude beyond anything we use. If we could adapt this to the Horizon's shields. A distant rumble interrupted her, followed by the sound of crumbling stone. The Guardians, Emily said, her voice tight. They always get more active when we're in here. It's like the ruins offend the planet somehow. Zarak made a quick decision. Kreela, keep working. Dr. Chen, show me how to use those sonic disruptors. We'll buy you time. What followed was a desperate battle against time and crystal. Zarak found herself fighting side by side with Emily, the human's reflexes and adaptability a perfect complement to Zarak's own strength and tactical mind. They held off wave after wave of guardians, the sonic weapons shattering crystal limbs and bodies. But for each one they felled, two more rose to take its place. Just as Zarak felt her strength flagging, Kreela's voice rang out triumphantly. I've got it. Captain, we need to go now. They barely made it back to the transport, crystal spears shattering against its armored hull as they sped away. As they raced back to the main bunker, Emily turned to Zarak, her eyes shining with a mixture of exhaustion and hope. Do you think it'll be enough to get us through the storm? Zarak looked at the human, marveling at her resilience. I don't know, she admitted. But I do know this, if anyone can pull off the impossible, it's your people, Dr. Chen. Emily smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her weathered face. Please, call me Emily. And thank you for believing in us. As they approached the bunker, a new alarm blared. Zarak felt her heart sink as she saw the massive storm front on the horizon, roiling with unnatural energy. The true test was about to begin, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The battle for survival. The bunker was a hive of frenetic activity when Zarak, Emily, and Kreela returned. Humans and aliens worked side by side, a symphony of organized chaos as they prepared for the evacuation. The air thrummed with tension and the distant rumble of the approaching storm. Talon glided up to them, his energy form flickering with urgency. Captain, the storm's accelerating beyond our projections. We have less than 6 hours before it hits. Zarak's mandibles clicked in frustration. Not enough time. Kreela, what's the status on the shield modifications? The first officer's fingers danced over a datapad. We've integrated the alien tech, but it's unstable. We might get one shot at punching through the storm, but after that, she left the implications hanging. Emily's face set in a determined frown. Then we make that one shot count, but we can't leave yet. There are still hundreds of people in the outlying bunkers. As if to punctuate her words, a violent tremor shook the structure. Dust rained from the ceiling, and in the distance, they heard the unmistakable sound of crystal giants rising. The planet's pulling out all the stops, Emily muttered, her eyes darting to various monitors. It knows we're trying to leave. Zarak made a quick decision. Talon, you and Kreela get back to the horizon. Prepare for immediate evacuation. Emily, we need a plan to get your people to central extraction points. Fast. For the next hour, they worked feverishly. Emily's knowledge of the terrain and the planet's defenses proved invaluable as they plotted escape routes and rally points. Zarak marveled at the human's ability to think on her feet, to find solutions where none seemed possible. But as the first groups of evacuees began to arrive, battered and shell-shocked, a new problem arose. Captain, one of Zarak's junior officers called out, we're detecting multiple ships entering the system. They're not Confederation. Zarak felt her heart stink. Scavengers, she hissed. They must have detected our transmissions. Emily's face paled. Are they here to help? Not likely, Zarak replied grimly. They're probably here to strip this planet of anything valuable, including advanced technology, and potentially unique life forms. Understanding dawned in Emily's eyes. Us. They're here for us. The situation had just gone from desperate to nearly impossible. They now faced a three-front war against the planet itself, the approaching storm, and an unknown number of hostile ships. Emily's eyes suddenly lit up with a dangerous gleam. The planet, she murmured. Captain, I have an idea. It's crazy, probably suicidal, but it might just work. As Emily outlined her plan, Zarak felt a mixture of awe and terror. It was audacious, reckless, and utterly brilliant. In short, it was quintessentially human. "You want to weaponize the planet against the scavengers," Zorak clarified, her mind reeling at the implications. Emily nodded, her eyes blazing with determination. "The ruins aren't just data storage. They're a control system. If we can access the main protocols, we might be able to direct the Guardians, maybe even influence the storm itself. But the risk," Zorak began, "is less than the risk of doing nothing," Emily finished. "I'll go. It has to be me. I know the ruins better than anyone." Zorak studied the human for a long moment, then nodded. "Not alone, you won't. I'm coming with you." What followed was a desperate race against time. As the rest of Zorak's crew coordinated the evacuation and prepared defenses against the approaching scavenger ships, Zorak and Emily made their way back to the alien ruins. The storm was getting closer, the sky a roiling mass of unnatural colors. Crystal giants erupted from the earth with increasing frequency, their movements more erratic and violent than ever. Inside the ruins, Emily worked with feverish intensity, her fingers flying over alien controls as she attempted to decipher the ancient systems. Zorak stood guard, her weapon at the ready as the structure shuddered around them. "There," Emily suddenly shouted. "I think I've got it." The central crystal pulsed with blinding light. Outside, they heard a sound like the planet itself was screaming. On view screens patched into their communicators, they watched in awe as the crystal giants turned their attention skyward. Massive tendrils of energy, extensions of the storm itself, lashed out at the approaching scavenger ships. "It's working," Zorak breathed, scarcely able to believe her eyes. But their victory was short-lived. The console Emily was working on suddenly sparked violently, throwing her back. "No," Emily cried, scrambling back to her feet. "The system's overloading. We've triggered some kind of failsafe." The ground beneath them began to shake, more violently than ever before. Cracks appeared in the walls and floor, iridescent lights spilling through. "We need to get out of here," Zorak shouted over the din. "Now." They ran, the ruins collapsing behind them. As they emerged into the open air, they were met with a scene of breathtaking destruction and beauty. The storm had engulfed half the sky, its energies clashing with the planet's defenses in a spectacular light show. In orbit, they could see the scavenger ships frantically trying to retreat, harried by crystal projectiles and energy beams. But the planet was tearing itself apart. Massive fissures opened in the earth, the golden vegetation withering and dying as the planet focused all its energy on the threat above. "What have we done?" Emily whispered, her voice barely audible over the cacophony. Zorak placed a comforting hand on the human's shoulder. "What you had to do. What you always do. Survive." As if in response to her words, the comm crackled to life. It was Krila. "Captain, we've got a clear shot through the storm. It's now or never." Zorak looked at Emily, seeing in her eyes the same mix of determination and regret she felt herself. "This is it," she said. "Are you ready?" Emily took one last look at the world that had been her home and prison for so long. Then she squared her shoulders and nodded. "Let's go." As they raced towards the evacuation point, the planet convulsing around them, Zorak realized that this was just the beginning. Humanity was about to re-enter the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. The true challenge, she realized, was yet to come. A new understanding. The horizon shuddered as it broke atmosphere, its shield straining against the planet's dying fury. In the ship's crowded hold, humans and aliens alike held their breath, watching through view screens as Novaterra receded behind them. The planet's surface was a canvas of chaos. Golden fields gave way to yawning chasms, crystal spires crumbled into dust, and the storm that had threatened to destroy them all now turned inward, tearing the world apart. Emily Chen stood at the forefront, her hand pressed against the cold, transparent steel, her face reflected in the material, overlaying the image of the disintegrating planet. A fitting metaphor, Zorak thought, for the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. All stations report. Damage assessment. Zorak commanded, forcing herself to focus on the immediate concerns. Kreela's voice came over the comm, tense but controlled. Hull integrity at 82%, Captain. We've got minor breaches on decks 7 through 9, but emergency force fields are holding. Life support stable. Warp drive functional, but I wouldn't push it past factor 6 right now. Zarek nodded, mentally calculating their options. Set a course for the nearest Confederation outpost. Best possible speed without straining the engines. As her crew bustled around her, carrying out her orders with admirable efficiency despite the chaos of the past few hours, Zarek made her way to Emily. "Dr. Chen," she said softly, coming to stand beside the human. "Emily, are you all right?" Emily didn't turn, her eyes still fixed on the rapidly shrinking image of Novaterra. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "We survived. We escaped. But at what cost?" Zarek followed her gaze, watching as the last visible traces of the planet disappeared into the void of space. "You did what you had to do. You saved your people." "Did I?" Emily turned then, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "We destroyed a world, Captain. A living, thinking world. In our desperation to survive, we became the very thing the planet feared, destroyers." The weight of her words hung heavy in the air between them. Zarek found herself at a loss, her usual diplomatic training failing in the face of such raw emotion. "Perhaps," she finally said, choosing her words carefully, "but you also showed remarkable restraint. How many years did your people struggle, adapt, and endure rather than resort to such measures? You exhausted every other option before taking this final, drastic step." Emily nodded slowly, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. "We're stubborn like that. It's our greatest strength, and maybe our greatest flaw." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines and the murmur of voices as the rescued humans were tended to by the medical staff. "What happens now?" Emily asked, her gaze drifting to where her fellow humans were gathered, their faces a mixture of relief, grief, and uncertainty. Zarek's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Officially, I'll have to report this to the Galactic Confederation. The reemergence of humanity. It's going to cause quite a stir." Emily's eyebrows rose. "I sense a but coming." "But," Zarek continued, a note of conspiracy entering her voice, "reports can take time to file, especially when communications are unreliable." Understanding dawned in Emily's eyes, giving us time to prepare, to make our case. Zarek nodded. The Confederation quarantined humanity for a reason. Whether that reason still holds true, well, that remains to be seen. Emily straightened, a new determination settling over her features. "We've changed, Captain. Centuries of struggling on Novaterra have taught us hard lessons about cooperation, resourcefulness, and the consequences of our actions. We're not the same species that was locked away all those years ago." "I believe you," Zarek said, surprising herself with the realization that it was true. "What I've seen of you and your people, it's remarkable. Terrifying in its potential, yes, but remarkable nonetheless." She turned to face Emily fully, her 4 eyes meeting the humans too. "But it won't be easy. There will be fear, prejudice, and no small amount of political maneuvering to overcome." Emily's jaw set in a determined line. "We're used to overcoming impossible odds. We'll face this challenge like we've faced every other, head on, with every ounce of creativity and determination we can muster." Zarek felt a surge of admiration for the human. "Then let's get to work. We have a lot to do before we reach the outpost." Over the next few days, as the horizon limped towards the nearest Confederation base, Zarek watched in amazement as the humans set about proving their worth. They threw themselves into repair efforts, their innovative solutions and tireless work ethic impressing even the most skeptical members of her crew. Emily, meanwhile, worked with Zarek to prepare their case for the Confederation. They compiled records of the human colony's struggles and achievements on Novaterra, emphasizing their growth and the lessons learned. As they approached the outpost, Zerak found Emily on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Having second thoughts, Zerak asked, coming to stand beside her. Emily shook her head. No, just reflecting on all we've lost and all we stand to gain. She turned to Zerak, her eyes shining with a mix of emotion. Thank you, Captain, for taking a chance on us, for seeing beyond the old stories and fears. Zerak felt a warmth spread through her. You've opened my eyes, Emily, to possibilities I never imagined. Whatever happens next, know that you have an ally in me. As the outpost came into view, a gleaming beacon of civilization against the backdrop of space, both human and alien stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The universe was about to change. Humanity, with all its flaws and all its potential, was poised to rejoin the galactic community. And Zerak, once a by-the-book Confederation captain, now found herself an unlikely ambassador for a species long thought lost. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But as Zerak looked at the determination etched on Emily's face, she felt a surge of hope. If any species could navigate the turbulent waters ahead, it was these remarkable, resilient humans. The next chapter in galactic history was about to be written, and Zerak had a feeling it would be one for the ages.